Hello there! Next to Charlotte's Web, Stuart Little is probably E.B. White's most well-known story, and has even launched a couple big-budget film adaptations. It's not hard to see why the story of a simple mouse living his adventure would hold so much appeal. I recently read the book for the first time, and I have to be honest, I was a tad underwhelmed by it. Although I will cut White some slack because it was his first attempt at a children's book. Stuart is a character who I find hard to sympathize with, as he takes himself too seriously, thus creating a distance between him and myself. The book is fairly episodic as it goes through one little event after another, but I didn't find a lot of them terribly interesting, and the structure is rather disjointed. I felt the best moments involved his relationship with a bird named Margalo, who he befriends, and it's the one time I felt Stuart actually came off as charismatic and likable. However, this also led to the strangest part of the book, where he goes off in search of Margalo when she flies away. Stuart basically leaves home without a word when it's pretty obvious how much the Little family cares about him. That's gratitude for you. That's not even the oddest chapter. There's a strange chapter where Stuart teaches a class of school children about his idea of politics, and at another point he has a 2-minute date with a tiny woman where he just mopes the entire time, and that's the section where I pretty much found Stuart to be a very unlikable character. And finally, the book just stops. There's no ending. I don't think every story should finish with a bow on top, but it's nonetheless very anticlimactic. Apparently, White thought he was going to die, so he just sent the manuscript to his publisher unfinished, and I guess they assumed he had forgotten the final chapter, but published it anyway. Considering he lived for another 40 years, I don't know why he couldn't have published a new edition that completed the story. In any case, I know Stuart Little is a beloved classic, but it just doesn't do much for me. And I think Charlotte's Web is wonderful, which makes my reaction especially disappointing. Many years later, a feature film adaptation of Stuart Little was made, with Rob Minkoff in the director's chair, fresh off The Lion King. To write the film, they hired a young screenwriter who at the time had mainly done spiritual family dramas, named M. Night Shyamalan. I know it's hard to believe, based on what he pulled with The Last Airbender, but I actually feel he managed to write a screenplay for Stuart Little that surpassed the source material. Due to the episodic and disjointed nature of the book, it would have been hard to pull off a completely faithful adaptation, so Shyamalan and Minkoff mainly picked and chose elements from the source, and the result is a rather charming little family film. The first thing they do right is Stuart himself, who is very likable and sympathetic in this film, as further helped by Michael J. Fox's excellent vocal performance. The script has a lot of heart as it nicely shows Stuart trying to fit in with his adopted human family, and there's certainly more than one scene that definitely hits the emotional sweet spot for me. The humor works too, with Nathan Lane displaying the right comedic timing as Snowbell, though the character has some strong character development too. For a film released in 1999, the special effects hold up extremely well too, as there's definitely a sense that Stuart is interacting with the Littles. And unlike most attempts to put moving mouths on animals, the cat's lip movements don't come off as awkward and creepy looking. Overall, while I'm unenthusiastic about White's book, I thought the filmmakers did a nice job of taking Stuart Little and making him work as a movie character and putting a well-told and heartwarming story around him. Rob Minkoff is a director who obviously knows what he is doing, and watching Stuart Little again recently, it made me even more confident that he's going to do a great job with the upcoming big screen adaptation of Mr. Peabody and Sherman. For the sequel, Minkoff returned to direct, but Shyamalan was working on other things, and in his place was Bruce Joel Rubin. So yes, the Stuart Little series went from the writer of The Sixth Sense to the writer of Ghost. The biggest criticism people gave the first film is that it did not really explore the issues of being a small being in a large world. However, Stuart Little 2 makes this the major theme of the story, as we see Stuart dealing with being such a small member of his family, not having friends his own size, and his worrisome adopted mother constantly fretting over his safety. The script definitely explores those ideas well, and like the first film, the screenplay does not talk down to the audience. His relationship with Margot is nicely handled, and there's a definite chemistry between the two, even though she's conning the Littles. Snowbell, once again, gets some hilarious lines courtesy of Nathan Lane's top-notch voice work, and he definitely steals the show. And James Woods seems to be having fun as the evil Falcon. It all culminates in an exciting climax in Central Park, and the final result is a solid sequel which successfully continues the heart and humor I liked from the first film. For Stuart Little 3, the producers decided to go the direct-to-video animated sequel route, and my opinion of this reflects how I feel about the animation. It's passable enough, but nothing really all that special. Stuart's likability is kept intact, and Snowbell again gets some of the funniest and most enjoyable bits. However, the story is typical generic fodder, and unlike the first two, which are definitely family films, Stuart Little 3 is more of a children's film. The Littles kind of fade into the background, and none of the new characters are very memorable. Impressively, for a lower-budget direct-to-video, Michael J. Fox, Hugh, Laurie, and Geena Davis reprise their roles, though Nathan Lane is surprisingly absent. Instead, Kevin Schon, who Disney usually hires to voice Timon when Lane is unavailable, takes on the role, but more than handles the task. Overall, for a simple adventure, it's okay, but more of a curiosity for those who are fans of the first two Stuart Little pictures. When it comes to E.B. White's famous mouse, I certainly prefer what Rob Minkoff did with the little rodent over how his original creator handled him. In conclusion, if you're still looking for some very good movies to sit and watch with the entire family this holiday season, I certainly highly recommend The Cinematic Adventures of Stuart Little. See you next time.